These are the most racist countries in the world. Imagine traveling to another country for your holidays or for other reasons, and you're excited to explore its culture and meet new people. But instead of warm welcomes, you're met with cold stares and unkind words just because of the color of your skin, religion, or where you come from. Sadly, for many, this is everyday life. Some countries have such deep-seated prejudices that racism becomes a part of the everyday experience for many people living there. In this video, we'll uncover the world's most racist countries, so stay tuned. Starting off with a country in West Asia, Qatar. Qatar is surrounded by Saudi Arabia and the Persian Gulf. Everyone knows that Qatar is one of the wealthiest countries in the world. The country's wealth is assumed to be mostly from oil, but over half of the country's GDP is from the manufacturing, construction, and financial industry of the country. The country's wealth has given Qataris a high standard of living with free healthcare and education. But what about its migrants? Qatar has been racist towards its migrants. There are over 1.2 million migrant workers in Qatar, with most of them coming from countries like India, Pakistan, Iran, Philippines, Egypt, and Sri Lanka. The country's racism came into light during the preparation towards the 2022 FIFA World Cup. Qatar faced widespread criticism for the abuse of migrant workers who helped the country prepare for the 2022 FIFA World Cup. According to a report from The Guardian, a British news agency, more than 500 Indian migrant workers have died in Qatar since January 2012. Most of the deaths are the workers who are building the stadiums used for the 2022 World Cup. Apart from the Indian workers, The Guardian also revealed that over 185 Nepalese workers had died in Qatar in 2013, taking the total from that country to at least 382 over 2 years. Tendai Achiumi, United Nations Special Reporter on Contemporary Forms of Racism, Racial Discrimination, Xenophobia, and Related Intolerance, mentioned in her report during her visit to Qatar that many migrants are subjected to harsh working conditions, excessively long hours with no rest and no days off, passport and mobile phone confiscation, physical and social isolation, and in some cases, long-term physical, verbal, or sexual assault by employers. She also indicated that South Asian and Sub-Saharan Africans were being denied access to parks and shopping malls because of their appearance by police, traffic authorities, and even private security forces. This has been going on since the early 2000s, but came into light during the 2022 World Cup, making Qatar one of the most racist countries in the world. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more eye-opening travel content. Next country on the list is Israel. Israel is a small country on the eastern end of the Mediterranean Sea. The country is bordered by Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, the Red Sea, Egypt, the Mediterranean Sea, and some Palestinian territories. Israel is one of the strongest countries in the world with a strong economy and army. One might wonder, with all its strong ties, economy, and warfare, why is the country one of the most racist in the world? Well, Israel's racism has been mostly against its Arab neighbors. In 2022, a march to commemorate the establishment of Israeli control over East Jerusalem in 1967 was carried out by some Israelis. The march revealed the hatred Israel's citizens have over their Arab neighbors. The Israelis were chanting some horrible words like "death to Arabs" and "Arabs are sons of bitches." One marcher was filmed by CNN representatives chanting "Shireen is dead, Palestine is dead," in reference to an Al Jazeera reporter named Shireen Abu Akleh, who was killed that same period. The march was approved by an Israeli minister, Omer Bar-Lev. Even though the minister faced backlashes for approving the march, he defended himself on Twitter by saying, "If we succumb to the threats of terrorism not to wave Israeli flags in our capital, we will not know one day of silence, and we will find ourselves folding in the future as well." Although he condemned the racist behavior by adding that the ugly racist behavior that cannot be tolerated. Several leaders in Israel have been accused of racism. One of them is Benzi Gopstein, the leader of a Jewish extremist group who was convicted of incitement to racism. Another person is Israel's Prime Minister, Netanyahu. Netanyahu made a call to deport Eritreans in 2023. A report from Al Jazeera titled "Netanyahu's Call to Deport Eritreans Shows Israel's Racism is Global" revealed how the Prime Minister threatened to deport the Eritreans before the international law barred him from doing so. Human Rights Watch released a report in 2021 that shed light on a deeply rooted problem in Israel. The report highlighted how the system there tends to favor the Israelis over the Palestinians. The report also revealed that Palestinians have been displaced from their homes and also restricted to jobs, education, and healthcare. Moving on to the third country on our list, Iran. Iran is a country in the western part of Asia. The country is bordered by Iraq, Turkey, Azerbaijan, Armenia, the Caspian Sea, Afghanistan, Pakistan, the Gulf of Oman, and the Persian Gulf. Racism in Iran started far back in the early 1900s. In 1926, the Azerbaijani language was banned from Iran for the first time. Anyone who spoke the language was punished severely. In the early 1900s, Afghan people who sought refuge in Iran also faced racism from Iranians. An Afghan journalist, Zara Nader, shared her experience with DW, a German news outlet, as an Afghan refugee in Tehran. She told DW that the bias and racism she faced in the 1900s still exists today. According to her, in Iran, Afghan refugees face two levels of racism: systemic racism supported by law and community racism. The first one imposes additional fees and taxes on Afghan refugees without allowing their access to public services. However, community racism is more dangerous. Iranian citizens humiliate Afghan refugees on a daily basis, and it affects them mentally by destroying their confidence and hopes for the future. In 2010, the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, CERD, of the UN urged Iran to tackle racism on Arabians, Azeri, Balochi, and Kurdish communities and some communities of non-citizens after receiving several reports and incidents of racism in the country. Also, in 2019, a UN panel said Arabs, Kurds, and other minorities in Iran face discrimination because of their ethnicity. Fast forward to today, Iranians are now prosecuting people of other religions in the country. A report from the United Nations rights experts told Iran to end the systemic persecution of religious minorities. Next on the list is Libya, a country in North Africa. Libya is bordered by other African countries like Egypt, Chad, Niger, Algeria, Sudan, and Tunisia. Libya has a long history of slave trading, and also their racism attitude has come a long way before the 20th century, most especially against black Africans and other minority groups like the Amazigh and the Berbers. That is one of the reasons why reports of kidnap, torture, extortion abuse, and forced labor against migrants, asylum seekers, and refugees from other parts of Africa, most especially the blacks, are still common today. The country has a weak judicial system that does not protect citizens and migrants in the country by leaving the racist unpunished. In 2022, a black Libyan official was arrested for filing a complaint against her deputy. After being released, she said, "It's racism. They can't imagine a black woman from the South being in a leading position in this country." They also put similar pressure on the previous minister appointed for my community. The minister is from a small black community in Libya called Taboo. She further said she was called a slave on a national television channel. In her words, "They called me Nigerian and Chadian in an attempt to make me less of a citizen." Several reports from NGOs have shown that Taboo faces racism and discrimination because of their generally darker skin color. Human Rights Watch documented cases where migrants, asylum seekers, and refugees in Libya have experienced arbitrary detention, ill treatment, sexual assault, forced labor, and extortion. The report from the UN Independent Fact-Finding Mission on Libya further confirmed their documentation by stating that there are reasonable grounds to believe migrants were enslaved in official detention centers as well as secret prisons, and that rape as a crime against humanity was committed. World Population Review also showed that 39.7% of their study population said that they've either been the victim or witnessed discriminatory behavior in Libya. Don't be surprised. Racism in Libya is really that bad. Next on the list is Russia. Russia is the world's largest country by landmass and the world's second largest nation. The country is bordered by over 12 countries, including Japan and the United States. However, racism is still a big problem in the country. Racism in Russia has been around for a long time, starting in the late 1800s. Back then, there were uprisings in Poland, and the Russian government started to show hostility towards people who were not from the country. The government wanted to reduce the use of other languages and insisted that people who didn't speak Russian should adopt Russian customs and language. This year, Al Jazeera published a report with the title, "After Deadly Attack, Russia's Central Asian Workers Report Rising Racism," revealing how migrants said that they were being collectively punished after Tajik nationals were suspected of the concert hall attack that happened on the 22nd of March 2024. BBC also published a story of different people narrating the racist experience they faced in Russia. Isabel, who studied at a university in St. Petersburg, said that she was treated meanly by other kids at school and reminded every single day that her skin color was different. India is known for its ancient cultural heritage, and racism and discrimination on the other hand. Racism and discrimination in India has been happening for a long time now and has been a long-standing issue. Discrimination happens based on skin color. The World Population Review listed India as the most racist country in the world. One of the oldest and most deep-rooted forms of discrimination in India is the caste system. This system divides people into different social groups, determining their social status, occupation, and even who they can marry. Although it has been officially abolished, the caste system still influences social interactions and opportunities, leading to widespread discrimination against lower caste individuals. Apart from the caste system, minority religions such as Muslims and Christians also face discrimination and racism from the majority religious groups. Iswego Namdi, the Secretary General of the Association of African Students in India, told BBC what fellow African students experienced on a daily basis to their faces. He said racism is not something which is very hidden here. It is something very open. People just look at you and then they call you Habshi and a lot of other words and racist slurs. And there you have it, the most racist countries in the world. Racism in the 21st century is a worrying issue. Some of us have missed opportunities because of our skin color or because of where we're from. Imagine a world where everyone is judged not by their skin color or origin, but by their character and actions. It's a world we should strive to create. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more mind-bending travel content.